Thank you, members of Synod. Would you give your attention to the moderator, please, who you'll see standing at the lectern.
Thank you. Thank you, Synod. Just before we actually do our next bit of work, I'm going to hand it back to the General Secretary, and he's just going to make a clarification.
Thank you, moderator. The clarification is to just confirm that for the ballot, the only people who need to be members of the Synod meeting are the standing committee members. So other people named, especially the property trust, there are some members listed in the ballot for property trust membership. They don't have to be members of the standing committee, of the Synod. Only standing committee members need to be members of the Synod. Thank you.
The Synod offers minutes of appreciation to chairs and Synod of Synod officers and staff appointed by Synod or the Standing Committee who have come to the end of their service. So Proposal 19 expresses this appreciation, and there is a minute for each person who has concluded their service. I invite those who are present to stand as I read out the names of those receiving a minute of appreciation, and remain standing, and we will offer thanks by acclamation. Reverend Stan Clark, Property and Operations Committee Chairperson. Bob Hodges, the UCA Property Trust Chairperson, and the UCA Property Trust Tasmania, he's Chairperson. Reverend Susan Malhouse Law, Synod Ethic Committee Chairperson. Reverend Fiona Morrison, Synod Sexual Misconduct Complaints Committee Chairperson. Rod Mummery, Terms of Placement Committee Chairperson. Reverend Neil Peters, Pastoral Relations Committee Chairperson. Reverend Associate Professor Sean Winter, Pilgrim Theological College and Head of College. So let us offer a thanks by acclamation. And let me offer a word of prayer. Let us pray. We give you thanks for the faithful service of these, your servants, for their dedication, their wisdom, and their care for the life of this synod. And we offer our gratitude. Bless them in the next steps of their journey. Grant them joy in what has been, peace in what is concluded, and hope for all that lies ahead. We give you praise, O God, for calling each of us to serve in different ways, and for weaving our contributions into the life of your church. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. We are now going to move into the Q&A session with Synod Ministries and Operations, and also Ministry and Mission Committee, and the Property and Operations Committee. I'll invite those people. Where are they? So I'll invite the Associate Professor Paul Chandler, Chairperson of Ministry and Missions Committee, to give a 3-minute presentation, followed by some questions. And also Helen Geard, Chairperson of Property and Operations Committee, and the General Secretary, and Sam, and Duncan. Jeez, it's getting better. I'm out of honeymoon period. Thank you.
Moderator, members of Synod, I'm still Paul Chandler. I still reside on Wurundjeri land, and I have been appointed to the Synod meeting by virtue of being the chairperson of the Ministry and Mission Committee. If we take a snapshot of the uniting church across Victoria and Tasmania, then we see thousands and thousands of people faithfully, enthusiastically and joyfully engaged in worship, witness and service. A kaleidoscope of light and love, ministry and mission. If we seek to appreciate the form of the word that means to fully notice, then it is, as it is, alive and amazing. But the various pieces of this kaleidoscope will not coordinate spontaneously on their own. They need a little bit of help. And the congregations, agencies, presbyteries and other work units must all play their part. Insofar as governance responsibilities of the Synod are a part of that, then that is where the Ministry and Mission Committee comes in. We don't do day-to-day operations, but we interface with many of those who do. The committee is constituted of both lay and ordained folk from rural and metropolitan backgrounds. It is chaired by myself, and I do have a day job. I am in fact one of the lay representatives. Deputy Chairperson Belinda Clear is unfortunately not able to be present, and we are well supported by the Synod Associate General Secretary as Executive Officer. Now, some of these pieces of the kaleidoscope that we connect with are, and wait for the list, Walking Together in Covenant, Ecumenical Advisory Group, Lay Preachers Association, Parish Missions, the Synod Intercultural Forum, the Mission Grants work, the work of ELM, the Theological and Ministerial Educational Committee, TMAC, and Pilgrim College. And there is more in our report. We have also responded to the tasks given to us by the Synod in the past, and with the particular support of the ELM-EO, there are reports on the ecumenical engagement with Pentecostalism and the ministry's pathways. Neither of those turn out to be neat. The more they are in fact peeled apart, the less they are conducive to being treated as a single pathway through a tidy set of easy outcomes. But this in fact characterises our work. To start with genuinely appreciating the kaleidoscope that we see when we meet and when we receive reports, to see things for what it is, and to provide some of the lubricant to help it turn to a next equally wonderful configuration. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you, Paul. I'll invite Helen to come and make her presentation.
Helen Geard, Property and Operations Committee Chair. I live and I work on the land of the Palawa people. I worship at Claremont, part of the Derwent cluster in Hobart, with beautiful, faithful people. We're redeveloping our kitchen so that we can continue our work of helping those vulnerable in our community. I work in a rural community where the long-term legacy of the Uniting Church will be 3 sandstone buildings and an exceptionally well-run cemetery. When at presbytery and presbytery standing committee meetings, we wrestle with a workload that is this big and our people capacity of this big, while we wait for mythical unicorns to fill our governance positions. I board a plane or I zoom in and I become one of them. Synod, Melbourne, the paperwork people. It is a privilege and incredibly rewarding to be one of them, because I get to work and journey with exceptional people of high calibre. You also get a wider perspective of the church and understand a bit more about the work of the assembly. They don't run on the smell of an oil rag, they run on wafts. Then there are our institutions woven into who we are as a church, working in our communities and being a voice for the vulnerable. The work of the Property and Operations Committee is not theoretical. It helps facilitate all that I have just described, while being safe, insured, compliant, and meeting our financial obligations. Financial sustainability and 2070 matters, because I don't want to be the one telling the people in this room that will be still doing good things in 2070 that they have to do it in a framework of poverty, because we spent the money, because we didn't have the hard conversations or listen to the uncomfortable calling of the Spirit that says, let's some things go in order to create an embrace.
Thank you, Helen. Mark.
Thank you, Moderator. Mark Lawrence, General Secretary. I live on Bunurong land. Moderator, what is Synod Ministries and Operations? I've got a slide to show. If that could be shown, please. Synod Ministries and Operations are the units that resource and serve the governance committees of the Synod and support, resource and collaborate with the other councils of the Church. Synod Ministries and Operations are the rectangles on this diagram. This is the simplified diagram. Synod Ministries and Operations is essentially 3 units of the Church. The Mission Resourcing Unit, of which Sam is the Executive Officer, Equipping Leadership and Mission, of which Duncan is the Executive Officer, and the Secretariat that Sharon and I share leadership of. And each of the units has a number of teams that are involved, and the teams are listed there. There's a link to this diagram in the report. Synod Ministries and Operations resources and supports the committees, networks of the Synod, other expressions of the Church and institutions of the Church to undertake a range of Synod responsibilities and to support these parts of the Church in the expression of the Church that they have. Some of what we do is very public and engaged with congregations and presbyteries, institutions and the Assembly daily. Some of the work isn't so public because of the confidential nature or the behind-the-scenes nature of what needs to be done. Please rest assured, though, we exist to support the Church to undertake its worship, witness and service as a vibrant body in the life of the wider Australian community. Lots of Synod ministries and operations staff are here today to resource this Synod as well with deep dives and so forth, and lots of stalls are down in the lower hall for you to have a look at during breaks and so forth. I encourage Synod members to do that. In this presentation, I really want to place on record, and on behalf of the senior leadership team, the deep and abiding appreciation that we have for all Synod staff, for their commitment, for their professionalism and expertise, for their flexibility, for their innovation, and so much more as they contribute and continue to serve the wider Church in this ongoing period of opportunities and challenges. Section E in the Synod papers and reports B1 and B2 provide a summary of what various parts of SMO, Synod Ministries and Operations, have undertaken since the 2023 Synod and what's on the horizon. SMO has values and characteristics that guide our work: trust, collaboration, sustainability and growth. The aims for these values and characteristics are that these will be distinguishing features in our work within and across SMO's teams and units, and also in our engagement across the wider Church. Thank you.
Thank you. And now some of you might have sympathy for me in the basic nature of what's going on, and there's no complexity to the diagram. It all looks pretty much straightforward. You will now get an opportunity to spend 5 minutes in your tables talking through the reports and whether there are any questions of any of these reports. After the table group discussions, we'll invite questions from the floor to all 3 reports. So consider if there is a particular question from your table and nominate someone to ask it, and they should come to the microphone as soon as I invite questions. So I invite you into your table talks and table discussions. Thank you. So as you round up your conversations, I'm going to invite us into a time of questions. And if you have a question, please make your way to the microphone. As is our usual practice, if your question is asked by someone else, please feel free to sit down. And a reminder that all these groups are providing deep dive sessions this afternoon, which is a way of reporting we adopt to allow for more questions to be asked at those reporting bodies. And we'll take 4 questions at a time, and then we'll invite a response. So microphone, red microphone, please.
Thank you, Moderator. I remain Chris Phillips. My question is to Mark Lawrence as the co-leader of the Secretariat Unit. Given that the Anglican Church had shown transparency with its Uruk Justice Commission submissions, can you please explain the reasoning behind the Uniting Church's application for a restricted publication order relating to its Uruk Justice Commission submissions? For clarity, the reasoning behind the application, not the content of the application.
Thank you. Black microphone.
Moderator Avril Hannah-Jones, this was a question that Table 15 talked about. Given that the first word in the title of the Mission Resourcing Unit is mission, can that unit contribute to the Missio Dei, or is it limited to resourcing other bodies to do mission?
Thank you. Still on microphone, Black.
Thank you, Moderator. I'm Kate Scull from Presbytery of Port Phillip West on Wurundjeri land. Just had a question around the Property and Operations report, that it was all extremely positive, but sometimes it seemed like it might have been glossing over some complexity that we knew about from other places, such as the loan to Scots, which wasn't mentioned, but it did say that Scots was doing really well, but maybe raise questions as to why they wouldn't be doing very well or something. And also, I'm not sure where the fees for services comes in. That wasn't mentioned at all. Maybe it's a different report. So that structure diagram is very confusing. But I wondered where we get to talk about that, and possibly the moderator has just given me the answer in the deep dive session.
Thank you. And one more before we ask for a response. The red microphone. Thank you.
Thank you, Moderator. Beth Donnelly-Bear from the Presbytery of North East Victoria. I'm up on Wiradjuri country. My question is, with great respect to the paperwork people, the Act 2 project listened to the desire of local communities of faith to be freed up from bureaucratic processes, to be able to get on with their work of being the church in their place. And I'm wondering if, I guess, property services have a plan to make it easier for local communities of faith and congregations to be able to do their work without all of the paperwork. Some paperwork necessary, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to invite a response from those who are presenting the report.
Thank you, Moderator. With response to the question about the publication of the Uruk report submission, the Synod did not seek to restrict that submission. We sought advice from the Commission itself about some particular items in the report to ask them to indicate whether or not they would be happy for that report, for that information to be made available. We said in that submission that whatever they decided, we would abide by that. That was, I can't remember the exact time, but at least a month out from the submission date, and probably earlier than that. We sought, and once we hadn't heard anything, we made repeated requests of the Commission to indicate what should be made public and what shouldn't be made public, and the Commission did not get back to us until after the appearance at the Commission. So I want to assure the Synod members it was not the decision of the Synod, either Synod Ministries or Operations or the Standing Committee, to restrict publication. It was our request, based on some sensitive legal matters, to get advice from the Commission about what they wanted us to do. Thank you.
Mission and Ministry, Sam?
Sam Nicholas, Executive Officer, Mission Resourcing Unit. The word mission and what we do is to serve the wider church in delivering your mission and ministry objectives and goals. So we're there to support. It wouldn't, at the time, I think it was the major strategic review, I don't think we wanted to call it corporate services, if I recall correctly.
Thank you. Helen?
The paperwork people do not deliberately seek dark corners to create more forms. We live in a world that cares less about what we say, but they care very deeply about how we do it. There is a world of compliance. We need those forms. But what I want to emphasise is reach out, have the conversations with our property services team. Believe it or not, they are actually there to help you fill out and do what you want to do. They're not about trying to make life difficult. They want to enable what you want to do. So pick up the phone, send them an email. I plead to you, have the conversations.
Red microphone.
Thanks, Moderator. Ayla Williams, Palawa Country, Congress Tas. I think my question is to SMO as a whole. Is that appropriate? Okay. I read through the reports and I appreciate that they hold a great breadth of work within them, so thank you all for that. I am concerned though, because in all of the reports there seems to be a common thread. There is no mention of the covenant. There is nothing about cultural safety. There's no framework that exists for that. There seems to be frameworks that exist for about every other thing with measurable outcomes, except when it comes to the covenant and cultural safety and self-determination. So that concerns me. So I think my question is, why is that missing? Thank you.
Thank you. Black microphone.
Thank you, Moderator. Trevor Bassett, Presbytery of Western Victoria, living on Wadawurrung land. I'm not much of an economist, and so my question is probably to the whole SMO, but to P&O perhaps. It's fabulous the work that occurs to support our church financially, and I'm just wondering though whether we need to be doing a similar amount of work alongside financial sustainability with membership sustainability, because I'm not sure how much membership we'll have in 2070, and if this isn't the place for that conversation, can you suggest where it should be? Thanks.
Thank you. Red microphone.
Thank you, Moderator. Nicole Mugford from Port Phillip West on the lands of the Wadri people. I was just wondering around the work that we do in regards to the fee-for-service, and it seems to me that there's a big body of work that's been done by the Synod. There's a big cry from the churches and the presbyteries that they need support and they need help, and we don't have the people to do all of these things that we want to do. And it seems to me that the sharing of our commonwealth and our resources are not being done in an equal way. So I'm just wondering why we've started charging for services when we're already paying mission and mission fees to the Synod and what that looks like, and if we are one church, why are we not being one church? Why are we charging the church the arm or the leg of the church?
Thank you. Some responses?
Thank you, Moderator. I'll make a comment on the reference to the covenant in the SMO report, and also a comment on fee for service from a Synod Ministries and Operations perspective. Helen may have a further comment to make about fee for service from a P&O perspective. Synod Ministries and Operations takes guidance for the way that we work with the councils of the church and with other expressions of the church, including congresses, from the decisions of the church. And so it is implicit in a lot of, in everything that SMO undertakes, that we are part of the church that has a covenant with Congress, that we are part of a multicultural church, that we are part of the church which seeks accessibility and inclusion across a whole range of areas. So we haven't named all of those aspects of what it means to be the uniting church, the character of the uniting church in the SMO report, because that's the guidance that we receive from the councils of the church, and such as through these sorts of meetings. And my hunch is the other committees of the church and so forth haven't listed that element of being part of the covenant as well. So that's why, that's the framing, that's the frame around everything that SMO does. I take Ayla's point about reference to cultural safety and how we engage with that. We have done some work in cultural safety in training arrangements and climate setting and so forth amongst SMO. Not everything that Synod Ministries and Operations does can be included in these reports, of course, but I take Ayla's point on that, and we will certainly give that further consideration. I've got a ring. Am I too far away or too close, or it's okay? Thanks. In terms of the fee-for-service arrangements, the Synod has always had fee-for-service arrangements in some ways. I've been involved in the life of the Synod. I started working for the Synod in a different role back in 1996. I've had a few roles in different parts of the Synod over that time. Throughout that time, there has always been fee-for-service in different ways, in different responsibilities. What the Synod has always had and continues to have is a baseline of services that are provided at no extra cost for congregations and for presbyteries. And everybody is treated equally at that point. A key philosophical reason for why fees are offered for some pieces of work are because often those pieces of work will generate significant income for those congregations or that presbytery, or of an order where the wider church will not benefit from the expenditure being made. And so to ensure that all people are treated equally and that the rich congregations or the rich presbyteries don't get richer, then if there's work that's going to be done, that will mean there's extra income for those parts of the church. Then there is a fee-for-service operation added to those elements of work, which is way below commercial cost and which is absolutely essential for us to undertake to ensure compliance within the life of the church, but also compliance from the regulatory authorities that we need to operate with as part of the wider community. So really want to underline, there have always been fees for a variety of services across the life of the Synod since at least 1996 that I can recall, and those fees are only offered in exceptional circumstances when there are very large projects which are going to generate income of some sort. And there are some elements for trust fees and so forth which are also charged, and information will go out fairly soon to say that those, because of arrangements which we've been able to make, those fees will actually be reduced. Thank you.
Also, I'd like to ask the Associate General Secretary to...
Sorry, could I just add one other thing? In those fees that are added, as I said, they are offered at a significantly discounted rate from normal commercial services, and so the Synod engages, or for want of a better term, wears those costs as part of the Synod's overall budget.
Duncan MacLeod, living on Bunurong country and working on Wurundjeri country, Executive Officer Elm. So first of all, coming back to the conversation around covenanting and cultural safety, I could add to that intercultural competency and the ability to understand and engage with our partnerships. I can talk about the Pilgrim Theological College environment, where over the last 3 years we've worked very hard on ensuring that our candidates and other students are able to experience and understand what's happening around the realities for people who are living on country or come from country. So that's been built into our work, and we're currently working on units which will help not just our SMO staff and our students and so on, but also people in congregations and presbyteries are able to benefit from work around intercultural competency. Around fees for service, as Mark says, we've always had fees for service, and the reality is the cost of undertaking a degree at University of Divinity, or even some of our online learning units, there's always a cost, which covers the cost of employing staff and the cost that it takes to actually engage with a university setting or to provide resources. But we do subsidise those, and a good example of that is the undergraduate certificate in leadership, where we've found ways of subsidising that significantly. The question around how we see the connection between sustainability of people in congregations and financial sustainability, I think that's a good example of how our Synod ministries and operations staff work together. So between our property, our finance team, our staff who are working in the field, supporting the work around discipleship, advocacy, our presbytery Elm ministers, this is an ongoing question. We do use the Community Life Survey and Financial Return Survey to help us understand what's happening on the ground, and we encourage people to take that seriously. I know it's more work for small congregations. One reflection on that is we do encourage presbyteries to take note of the Act 2 process, where we encourage people to work together to do this governance work, to have some flexible models, bespoke models that help people share the burden around compliance. But we do note that sustainability of local communities of faith is not just about finance. It's also about critical mass of being able to engage with your local community. It's about the capacity for governance. It's the capacity for well-being of our members, knowing that people do experience burnout. And so our presbytery Elm ministers have been working really hard on resources that will help local people, and we've started work now on making sure that people who are carrying responsibility for governance are well supported and equipped with programs that have no fee for service in the work that we offer. Thank you.
Just to add one more comment about membership sustainability. This is one of those great examples where all the councils of the church need to work together on evangelism, discipleship, how we grow membership and how we sustain membership in the life of the church already. That's one of the great aims and dreams behind Faithful Futures, that we have those common missional directions to work on together, and we as a church can only think about membership sustainability collaboratively across the councils of the church.
Thank you, Associate General. Secretary?
I just wanted to make a brief comment too, as the person who has oversight of the Culture of Safety unit. We're making a significant change to the way child safe training happens, so that we are looking to offer many more modules, because we've recognised that attending to things like cultural safety, both as it relates to the different cultures that we come from, and also as it relates to creating culturally safe environments for Indigenous people, cannot be attended to well enough in every 3-year training. And so the work's just beginning, but we are looking to add many units, not just on cultural safety, on lots of things to do with being a safe church, but it will involve units specifically on cultural safety, and Candice Coles, who's working on that, will be working with First Nations people, both within the church and more broadly, to ensure that it's appropriate for both the church context and for ensuring that we are as culturally safe as we can be.
Any further questions? Red microphone.
Paddy Mulcahy. Just to clarify, you did say that if this is my second time, I don't need to say any of the others. Great, I don't want to be inappropriate. Is this an appropriate time to ask a question regarding the Ministry and Mission Committee report? Thank you. Thanks to my table for keeping me on track. Having read through the report on the engagement, let me get down to where it was, forgive me, I'll get this done quickly. Dialogue and engagement with Pentecostal churches. I'm currently doing a pod under Alistair Pate, and it's a great privilege. What is the intention of the Synod in relation to the work that was done and the report that was written?
Just while whoever's going to answer it comes to the microphone, a pod is a period of discernment, and it's available for anybody in the church to do.
We'll hear the next question and we'll take them, taking note. Black microphone.
Thank you, Moderator Karen Eller. I live on the lands of the Wadawurrung in Port Phillip West. My question is also about cultural safety, but I'm asking about, would there be a module for LGBTIQ plus safety across the church?
Thank you. So we'll get some responses from Paul in relation to some of the questions that have been asked, and if there are any other from the others. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks for the question, and it's fair to observe that the committee has received a very, very, very detailed piece of work on the relationship with Pentecostalism. It was truly inspiring, the amount of work that went into that, and the level of detail that people like Alistair are able to bring to that discussion. It is clearly a very complex, interfaceted area of the church's life. If only every Christian denomination was like us, and then we would be able to know exactly how to intersect with one another in an easy way. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And particularly in the case of denominations or structures or expressions of the Church Universal, which are much more congregationally based, then we form the view that in the absence of a directive to do much more further work on that area, then it really resides at the local level for initiatives to take hold. And we genuinely encourage that local collaboration on an ecumenical basis to be foregrounded where it's appropriate.
Thank you.
I could answer.
I see a blue card. Is that in relation to... Do you want to say something? The blue card?
While that person's thinking, I'm happy to answer Karen's question, and that is, we're working through a range of units, and it's not in the first list of units that we'll have, but as I said, the plan is to build a library of things that people can do to ensure that they're a safe church, and that will be part of the plan, but I can't tell you exactly when.
Thank you. I think we'll take one more question and then two more. Yeah, you can stand up. Two more questions and then we'll move on. Thank you. Black microphone.
Thank you, Moderator. Meg Fittiman from Kingston Uniting Church, Palawa Country. I'm intrigued with safe churches about homeless people that come to church and don't feel they're safe to share their last name or where they live. And in doing safe training, I didn't see how they fitted to protect them and protect other people. And I just wondered if there could be some consideration how we include everyone in church if they don't fit from the training that I did and I understood around safe churches. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last question. Black microphone.
Thank you, Moderator. My name's Ennis McLeod from Ngāti Raukawa in New Zealand, living in the lands of the Bunurong people. I want to rise in support of my brother on the red microphone with regards to the report on the relationship between the Uniting Church and Pentecostal denominations. Where is it? How can we get hold of it? How can you actually expect people at congregational and presbytery level to do stuff if they can't actually access the report? And they won't access the report if there is no direction from higher up that there is something to be gained from increasing the relationships on an ecumenical basis with those churches who have so many more young people than we have. So that's my possibly comment, but possibly a question.
Thank you. And a response, a final response by any of the
Duncan
those on the
McLeod,
front.
husband of Ennis McLeod. The report, it's a significant report. Yeah, thank you, Rowan. The report, there's two parts to it. There's a report that is coming to this Synod meeting, which is now being received as part of the Ministry and Mission Committee, which is a very summarised report. And then there's a significant background paper, which would be very helpful for people who are wanting to understand the resources that would help them engage with local engagement with Pentecostal brothers and sisters. And in our report, there's also a lot of other resources that would be very helpful for people to have access. So the Ministry and Mission Committee did wonder how we're going to put that report out to people. And at the moment it says upon request. But we're actually doing a review of the Synod website at the moment in terms of where that fits. And rather than just saying here's another thing in the Synod drop-down menu, Pentecostalism, there is Karen Kleinhounds, who's the communications director, and myself. We're looking at how we make these kind of resources available to the wider church. And so it does fit under an ecumenical framework, which includes our work with Anglicans, and we do have a Lutheran Uniting Church dialogue as well. So it comes under that particular setting of the wider engagement with our ecumenical brothers and sisters. And I anticipate that that will be ready soon to be in that context, rather than drawing particular attention to just the Pentecostalism part of the picture. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. Just acknowledge the work that's been put into these reports and those who have responded, and also thank you for the questions that have come from the floor. And Yeah, we continue the journey as a church, and it's just shared responsibility, and we trust in the Holy Spirit that holds us as we continue the journey. So thank you to the presenters, and we will move on, and I'll invite the... and we can just stand up for maybe just a brief moment as we just reset. Yep. Return to your seats. Well, I hope you haven't ventured far from your seats. As we resume, I'm going to hand it over to Sue to tell us where we are going next.
Thank you, Moderator. We move back to the business of proposals, and we're going to start with Uruk. And there are a couple of amendments that Carlin will bring in a moment, but they will be on your screen. And then we'll resume the business, resume the proposals coming from M&M. So that will take us up to lunchtime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moderator, Carlin Nunn from Gunditjmara Country, part of the facilitation group. As Sue said, there are a couple of amendments that I'm going to bring in a moment. I did bring our report from that working group earlier for the response to the Uruk Justice Commission. But first I'm going to ask for responses to some questions that were raised from the mover of the proposal.
Moderator, just to remind the Synod that the Uruk proposal has 3 clauses. The first one is about welcoming the Uruk final reports and noting the recommendation to the churches. The second clause is about establishing a working group to work through the implications of the clause, well, to work through a response. And the third clause is about terms of reference, including consultations and engagement. The questions that I've heard, and to which I'll give some response, first of all, a question about time frame for commencing. I imagine that the October Standing Committee would probably be able to give it a good shot, so it won't take very long to get it started. We have been in this kind of space before with these kinds of working groups, so we should be able to draw together the right kind of set of people fairly quickly. Curiosity about how the working group will form. I'm not precisely clear what that question means, but the working group will include a range of appropriate expertise and diversity to be able to address the questions that are before it. There's a question related to that, I think, which was about working with trusts. You would be aware that that we need to navigate the trust space carefully. All of the assets of the church are under trust, and so we can't give them away without appropriate purpose. So that's something that we need to navigate, but there are some potential ways to navigate that, and that's going to be part of the conversation. And it actually feeds into another question, which is about major reporting dates. The next Synod meeting would be a fairly obvious major reporting date, and I think there's an amendment that we might look at in a moment about reporting to the next Synod. And it's possible, we need to do some more research on this, but it's possible that actually the mechanism of working through with the Synod will actually assist in navigating that trust space. So more on that when a bit more research on that has been done, but I think that's going to be part of how we actually are able to navigate this. Accountability is essentially to the Synod Standing Committee in the meantime, before the next Synod meeting. There's recognition that communications need to be widespread and sensitive, recognising that congregations and communities are in a variety of stances and will potentially be concerned about impacts in a variety of ways. So it's clear that we'll have to be pastorally sensitive and clear and educative in the communications, and some of that has been attempted to be captured in the proposal. There's also a question about Victoria and Tasmania. Actually, I don't know that is there really a question about Victoria and Tasmania? The Commission, we do need to care about Tasmania, yes.
No, do we need to worry about their process? They may possibly similar process now as a part of this.
The working group will have the responsibility for working through what we do across the whole Synod, recognising that one approach, which I would be completely surprised if the Synod took, would be to say, well, if you're one of the 1 in 10 congregations that happens to be on 391 land, then it's all on you, bad luck. I actually think it's much more likely that we will take a Synod-wide response so that we're supporting each other, and in doing so, we're paying attention to all of the land, and that will include all of the land in Lutruwita as much as the land's now called Victoria. Moderator, I think that's my response, and so Moderator, the facilitation team want to bring an amendment.
Thank you. We'll bring them the amendment.
I think it might be 2 quick amendments. There were not many substantive amendments suggested. The main one is, from what I understand, that was written in the responses from the working groups, an additional clause D. Do we have? Oh, look, there it is. Along the lines of that the working group Do
you want to say we haven't been given a D?
Well, it's not in there because from what I understand, they was asking for an addition about the reporting time frame to be added to the proposal. Report back to the next Synod meeting about results of working group.
Moderator, we haven't received that suggested amendment.
Well, I sent it, so...
I'm sorry, I've overlooked that. We're about to drop some words in that we think might address
great.
what's being asked for.
It's not huge.
Maybe introduce the other one while
Sure.
one's being worked
So
on.
yes, the rest were just, not just, but they were simply wordsmithing a little. A few of them we aren't putting up as suggestions to the floor for technical reasons, but there's one that we'd like to test, which is page 1 of the proposal, clause A to B, which I think wants to change the beginning of a sentence to motivated by our commitment to First Peoples. Yeah. Can you see that? Motivated by our commitment to First Peoples, share a portion of proceeds from the future sale of land of the nature described.
General Secretary.
Moderator, that's the recommendation which is included in the final reports from URUK. So it's quoting that. So we can't change their recommendation. Our response to that is clause B, C, and onwards.
Yep. So then what we're putting would just be the additional clause about a report back to the next Synod meeting about the results of the working group.
I'd like to just test the room and see without an amendment how we are feeling. We have overwhelming support, but there is a blue card. I invite you to make your way to the microphone. Black microphone.
Thank you, Moderator. Peter Harvey from the Presbytery of Lutruwita. I raised my blue card because the way I read this proposal is actually just about setting up the working group, not about the work that the working group will be doing. So the time frame that I wanted to be included in there was that the working group be set up by a particular time, and then that there be a time frame so that they can actually begin the work, rather than seeing it as an opportunity to say that they must report back at a particular time. That can be included too, but there needs to be an opportunity to say to them that we need to actually do this, and so we need to have the working group set up by a particular time so that their work can begin. So otherwise, the working group might not be formed for 18 months and they're only reporting on 6 months' work if we're setting that up. So I just see it as appropriate that we actually say to the Standing Committee that this working group be set up by a particular time.
Want us to respond? David?
Moderator, as I said in my introduction, I expect that the working group will be set up in October, so I really do not think that there is any cause for concern that the group will not be set up promptly.
I think there was overwhelming support for the amendment. Is that another question or comment? Yep. Black microphone.
Peter Mitchell from Port Phillip West Presbytery, and I live, work, play, worship on Wurundjeri land. I wonder whether the work of the working group would be actually finished by the next Synod meeting, and if not, then perhaps we might use the word progress instead of results.
Yeah. How does the... Do you want us to respond?
There was a bit of support for that, I think. I would suggest that even if it's results in progress, it still results. And it's really hard to know how long or how big. Chair.
Thank you. I see also some move on cards. Again, for the amendment, could you please indicate? For decision? Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Moderator.
I still have a blue card in the back. Would you like to say something? Please come to the mic. Red microphone.
Tony Floyd, moderator, Port Phillip East Presbytery. I strongly support the first part of this proposal, the commending the report, the URIC report to the church. I strongly oppose putting a time frame and having preset questions about the conversations that need to happen between local congregations and Indigenous First Nations communities. I know that, and I'm not suggesting, and our reference and our group last night were not suggesting that every congregation should seek a visit by First Nations peoples, but there must be that kind of openness, and the questions that we need to address then as a synod will arise out of those conversations. When we give directions and say, these are the questions we want answered, what if they're not the questions really that are most helpful to and grow understanding in and for and between the communities most affected by this? So I strongly oppose putting a time frame and putting our questions, but I strongly support setting up a framework by which local communities have a chance to frame their own questions and concerns. They're the ones that we then have to deal with. They're the ones we go back to. They're the ones who support or not this huge step in the life of the church.
Thank you, General Secretary.
Thank you, Moderator. Just to perhaps help to clarify what we're doing here, we're looking at the proposal in front of us. In terms of the record of the meeting and what is communicated in the wider church, it is only the proposal which would become a resolution if it's passed, and then information around that proposal would be provided as well. The rationale does not become a formal record of the meeting. The proposal does not include questions, and the only time frame that we have now is the addition of the clause to report to the next synod meeting. So, Moderator, I think perhaps with that understanding that might help the synod understand that that the formal record of this process is only what we resolve.
Thank you. Can I get an indication, synod, with that commentary?
And there are some move-on cards.
And of course, I also recognise the move-on cards as well. Thank you.
Sorry, I just need to address also, Moderator, as I mentioned, there were other wordsmithing, word changes suggested. There's one on the screen now, but we can't address that. There's, as I said, technical reasons why we won't be able to bring that to the floor now. Is that what you want to
Thank you.
Sorry, they're replacing the word relevant with all is currently on the screen, but we're not going to address that.
David?
Moderator, just to explain, there were some minor amendments that were sent through to the facilitation group which did not appear to have widespread support and as such did not seem particularly important. Changing relevant to all, we recognised in conversation with the facilitation group later on further reflection is actually not helpful because the Presbytery of what are they called? South Moreton. They don't need to know. If we are actually talking to all councils of the church, that's a very wide group. So relevant councils is actually appropriate here. And there was another tweak which grammatically is slightly problematic, and it's better. We don't think there's enough, or at least in my conversation with facilitation team representatives, there wasn't enough support to put, and so it wasn't supposed to go through.
I am struggling to now understand. General Secretary.
Thank you, Moderator. My understanding from what was just said is that if we go down to the question about the relevant councils, the suggestion is now that we retain relevant councils rather than add all. So you might want to see if, to get an indication for that.
Thank you. So the amendment D.
So that retains, continues to be the substantive proposal. There was another change there about to seek. I wonder, Moderator, given the number of move-on cards that we have, that whether or not that is that's something we could add in the finalising of the minutes as we do that work after the meeting.
So can I see an indication? Okay. Thank you. Now for decision for the proposal. Ulrich, please indicate. Thank you, Synod. We have consensus. Please, we don't applaud. We don't applaud. Let us just pause for a moment. Thank you, Synod. Moving on to the next one. I'll hand over to Sue for our next bit of business.
Thank you, Moderator. We return to the work of the M&M Committee, and we were discussing the healthy food proposal. Proposal 10, healthy food and climate change.
Thank you, Mark.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm assuming, are we back to questions or?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Oh. Back to the questions that we had, and those who were at the microphone. We still, Kelly Woods, Alex Sangster, Kate Scull, and Carlin Nunn. If you still
The
have
Moderator
those.
has to read my handwriting. I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, it's very neat. Thank you. Black microphone.
Thanks, Moderator. Kelly Woods, Port Phillip West, lands of the Wurundjeri peoples. I had a great conversation with Mark afterwards, so I actually appreciated the pause. It was lovely. I just wanted to bring up a concern of mine, and that is specifically around the language of, I do apologise, I can't remember the number, but it's looking at the marketing of healthy foods and restricting the marketing of unhealthy foods to children. I just wanted to feel the floor for the movement of it. The word healthy, even though it is in the proposal itself, it is a neutral word, unfortunately, and I do feel it important to put here, as someone who has struggled with their weight and disordered eating for still their whole life, and as someone whose stepchildren use this word to monitor their own disordered eating habits, it is not appropriate, I do believe, and I wonder if it might be better to be radical enough to say, let's just take the word healthy out and heavily restrict the marketing of foods, especially to children. I do not believe children should be a marketing ploy. Or, if that is not a good, what if the wording was changed to heavily restricted the marketing of non-whole foods, especially to children. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, did you want to?
Just responding to that, I'm open to language. In the break, I've had a chance to check why we used unhealthy. Unhealthy is the language used by the Council of Victoria, Vic Health, and the food research bodies from Deakin University. It is also the language used by the Obesity Collective, which is made up of people of lived experience out of that particular group, which is a group that we connect with. I did attend in 2023 the National Obesity Conference, and it was the kind of language that was used there. So the Synod could choose to use other language, but it will mean we will be out of step with those other bodies in the way they frame the conversation.
Thank you. Black microphone.
Alex Sangster, Port Phillip East, Wurundjeri Country. Putting aside jokes about pigs on spit, which I know we all appreciate, it is incomprehensible to me that we have a proposal about healthy food and climate change with no mention of meat consumption. Meat consumption, as we know, in terms of health and weight and the planet, is one of the biggest impacting forces in this space. And I think that if we're encouraging Australia and children and families to enter into eating healthy, whichever language we choose, eating experiences, but to not mention meat consumption, we are kidding ourselves as to what is actually at the core of some of the primary issues in this space.
Thank you. Black microphone.
Thank you, Moderator. I'm Kate Scull. There's a bunch of clauses that I have various issues with. Some are fine, so such as the commercial foods for infants and young children. I know there's big problems in that space at the moment with just no regulation on the truth claims of what's on the packaging. However, I'm worried about the church stepping back into this kind of paternalistic role and telling people what to do with their bodies, especially when weight is also kind of a gendered issue. It can be much more of a concern for women, objectifying, etc. So that's a worry for me. And also, the being in line with major organisations such as the World Health Organisation, they don't always get things right. And they took a very long time to admit that COVID got spread through the air, for example. So I think saying that we're telling Australia to implement subsequent relevant World Health Assembly resolutions which are in the future and we don't even know what they are, there's a problem there. Sorry. Just having a look if there was anything else. I agree also with Alex regarding the climate change aspect. I think the link is rather tenuous between the over-processed food and climate change. That wasn't very well developed in the rationale, so I didn't feel a big connection there. And yet other things such as food waste, for a start, and food security is something that I think we should be telling the government to look into more than just over-processed foods. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just ask a response from Mark.
So firstly, on the point, I don't believe there are clauses here that actually are targeting people eating. Is actually overwhelmingly all these measures are targeting the food industry as such. So I would take a different point of view over this, and that is the intention is to target the food industry itself and the way that it behaves towards us as such. If I address the meat issue, I don't think we would get agreement at the Synod meeting, which is why it has not been included in this. We were looking for the kind of measures that will allow us to move forward with doing some work that the Synod agrees are worth doing in this space. On the climate change aspect, the evidence is that food contributes to about 1/3 of global emissions, so that's in both production and consumption, and that is made up of a variety of aspects to that. Meat is certainly a significant part of that, but there is also the issue of over-processing does contribute to the climate change aspects.
Thank you, and I'm going to now hand it over to Sue for a procedural process.
Thank you, Moderator. I'm going to suggest that perhaps the people who have spoken to that meet with Mark over lunch for a facilitated conversation to see if there's something that can be brought back that we might move forward with, rather than trying to fit all those tweaks and changes and things into the proposal now. So Mark Zernzak, facilitation, and anyone who's interested in that conversation. Facilitation room at lunchtime. And M&M, please. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I suggest that we have an early mark. And so back to Sue.
Thank you. We've got 7 minutes till lunch, and we're not going to move through a piece of business in that time. So the announcements pre-lunch are to remind you that the ballots will close at the end of lunch at 2 p.m. If you've had trouble finding your email, have a look in your spam box, or if it's not anywhere to be seen, they can help you at the back office to sort that out. There are a number of lunchtime sessions available, led by various SMO teams. There are flyers on your table and information on the website and app. So if you're interested in attending one of those, grab your lunch and head to that space, and they'll get started at 1:15. And we'll come back at 2 p.m. With a guest. Auntie Esme Bamblett from the First Peoples Assembly will be joining us to speak to us then. So please be back at 2 p.m. Thank you, members of Synod.
Thank you. Before you leave, I'll just invite my chaplain to say grace, and then we'll go off to lunch.
Gracious God, thank you for this session that we just had, and thank you that we continue to have a great fellowship over lunch, and that we can enjoy 1 hour of fellowship. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Synod.